Hey everyone, Hannah here. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of my lesson plan and what I'm doing. Sorry, I don't have this queued up very well. So I will be teaching Julius Caesar to 10th graders. The the standard that we're going to be working on throughout the duration is analyze how complex characters develop over the course of a text, interact with other characters, and advance the plot or develop the theme. I feel that Shakespeare is a good one for this, and I really like Julius Caesar and just how multifaceted the characters are. They're not all just one thing. They're not either all good or all bad. And I think that that is an interesting thing for students to analyze and figure out. So my main differentiation, I always struggle with that word, throughout this unit is how I'm teaching it. So the students are going to be experiencing Julius Caesar the play in three different ways. The first one is we are going to be reading it verbatim, and throughout the lesson or the unit plan, I have it broken down into very manageable chunks. Um, the students will be reading the parts for the most part. I of course will step in if nobody will step up, but I will let them know that they will get real bored real quick if I'm the only one reading the parts. I'm not going to force any students to do that. I believe that that is an accommodation that should be applied to all students, um, and that they should not be required to read in front of people if they do not feel comfortable doing that. The next thing that I will be doing is at the end of every act, then we will be reading from this graphic novel. It's mostly a summary, but it does still use the language. And this is also where we are going to be really studying the characters. I do a great character breakdown before we get started on the reading. And I actually took the pictures from this graphic novel. This is the cast, and they will be posted throughout the room, throughout the entire unit, and we'll be referring back to those as we're reading. I just want to make sure that the students know who everybody is, how they're related to each other within the story and the context and everything. And so we'll be reading this graphic novel at the end of every act because it is broken down just into acts. So it's mostly a summary, but it has some really good action scenes, and it gives a face to the character, which I think is really important. At the end of every act, we will also be watching the 1953 version of Julius Caesar. And in the unit plan, I have it broken down exactly where each act ends. And for the most part, it's pretty verbatim from the play, but not exactly. And I just wanted to make sure that they have three different ways of experiencing the play so that they understand it. And throughout the unit, then I do check for understanding. I have my journals, or I have my students write in their journals every day. And about 3/4 through the play, then one of the journal entries is, please let me know where you're confused, if you're okay with the plot and all that. And I do collect the journals for a grade check after that. And any students that I feel are still struggling, whether from their participation or from what they put in their journal, the following day during the time that we're watching the play, then I'll be pulling them aside and just doing some one-on-one checking with them and assessing to make sure that they understand what's really going on. And because Shakespeare's confusing, so I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And the final assessment is not going to be a test, although there is a few assignments throughout that I will be giving grades for. But the final assessment is what I'm really excited about, and it's what this is why I did this play. So their final assessment is going to be a speech and debate contest in a sense. So each student is going to choose which of those characters from the cast that they feel would be the best leader of Rome. So the characters that they get to choose from, of course, are Brutus, Antony, Octavius, Cassius, and Caesar. And for the sake of the assignment, everybody that died did really not die for the sake of the assignment. So they're all still in the running for leader of Rome. And so based on what the students felt from the play, because they're all going to be different, because these characters are just they're so difficult to pin down, that each student will hopefully have a different idea of who they think would be the best leader for Rome. And from there, then the people who they choose, then they're going to be put into groups. There's going to be about 4 to 5 students per group, hopefully. And it is going to be their job to promote their candidate. So they And then we also have a group of 3 students that are going to be the judges. So there's going to be criteria that they have to judge these candidates on the final day. And so those may be for students that maybe like to judge a lot or maybe did not want to fully participate in the speech and debate portion of what we're going to be doing. So the students have to, of course, get in their groups. They each have an individual worksheet that they have to fill out. That's over here in the appendix. I would be happy to show that to you. So they each have to fill out, ooh, I'm showing you all sorts of things, the candidate worksheet. So that will be what they're going to be assessed on baseline, and then they're also going to get participation points. And so it's either they get very few points for participation or they get the full amount of points. And so I'm hoping they all get the full amount of points because this is going to be real fun. So on the candidate worksheet, they each fill this out individually. And they have to do, why is your candidate a good leader? What makes your candidate better than the other candidates? And what are your candidate's weaknesses? And then they come together as a group and they compare notes. But the thing is that they can't just spout off words. They actually have to have context from the play. So I don't need a page number or anything, but it has to be something that I know that that character did or said or acted like during the play, or else it's not going to count as a point. Okay. And so this is where they really have to know the play in and out, and that's what I'll be assessing them on. Is how well and thorough they can fill out this in regards to their candidate, as well as what makes your candidate better than the other candidates. That's where they have to know the weaknesses in the other candidates, and that's also what I'm going to be assessing them on. So I think it's going to be really fun. And then the judges also have their own sheet that they need to be filling out as well. So they are going to fill out individually first and then they come together. So these are just some traits that they find to be the most important in a leader. And then they rank those traits, and then together then they have to together rank the traits. So maybe a few of them said one thing and a few, so that's where the group collaboration happens, and the group collaboration has to happen with the candidates as well. So that's another thing that I think is going to be really fun as well as important for this activity / assessment. And so then on the final day, then I do have some slideshows explaining all of this to them. But on the final day, then they will each get to show off their candidate. And I'm actually going to go on the slideshow and give you the breakdown of how that's going to work. So step 1 for the final debate, they have to make sure that their speech is ready. So they have to have a 3-minute speech promoting their candidate ready. And then they just choose one person from their group to give that. So each group gets to do that. And then the next portion is a question and answer portion. I've written 3 questions that each group has to answer. They only get 1 minute to answer those. And I also inform the students that it is smart to be writing down notes the whole time so that that can be their fuel during the rebuttal portion. And they also have to use evidence. So they can't just say random things. If they're just saying things, then I'll stop them and say, cite the play, make sure you're using the play. And then the rebuttal portion is 5 minutes long. And that's where it just goes crazy fun. So in my classroom, I'm going to have a ball that they have to throw around, and it's the my turn ball. And whoever has it, it's their turn to speak. And they have to throw it, and they have to be respectful, of course. No hurling it at people's heads. But they each will take turns. So this is where they're going to bring up things that were said in the speech, things that were said in the question and answer, and they are going to really just go after each other and just try and promote their candidate and also put down the other ones. This is where it gets really fun and really heated and really passionate, and that's what I want. And it's during this rebuttal that you can really see the wheels turning in the students' heads about all different portions of the play and the little teeny actions done by one of them that now this other person's bringing up. So it's going to be really, really fun. And so the students will be graded on that worksheet they hand in as well as their participation. So I'm really excited for this unit. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I hope to use it someday in my classroom. I think that it will be a great addition to my classroom, and I think that it will give a way to teach Julius Caesar without all the pressure of just a typical Shakespeare experience, because I never had great Shakespeare experiences in high school, and I wanted to make sure that my students do not experience the same thing.